Essex have won the Schweppes County Cricket Championship. Their game against Yorkshire ended in a draw. Their closest rivals, Middlesex, needed to win their final match against Nottinghamshire to have a chance of taking the title, but the weather had the last word. We have reports on both matches. First, Jeremy Thompson from Chelmsford.
When Philip ruined the end of Boycott's season with a shooter that deprived him of his 2,000 runs, Essex must have thought they'd overcome their biggest obstacle. Just to underline the vagaries of the pitch, the next ball nearly beheaded Sharp. He continued to play precariously until he lashed out at lever and Turner took a fine over the shoulder catch. It was Martin Motson who proved the immovable object, compiling an impressive 50. He'd wiped out Yorkshire's deficit and given them a lead when the rain arrived, leaving Essex supporters and players alike waiting anxiously for news of Middlesex's fortunes. When they did get back on, Essex didn't hang about. Turner removing Hartley, and then Motson in the same over. But Yorkshire hadn't given up yet as Bairstow and Love blasted some belligerent blows to make Essex fret a little longer. John Lever then dug out Bairstow. But Essex's luck was mixed as yet another edgy shot failed to go to hand. And Yorkshire still seemed determined to make them fight all the way. That is until Lever and Turner suddenly produced some decisive action. The next few minutes were like a scene from a timber yard, Yorkshire crashing out with a lead of 136. But none of it really mattered, because as the final wicket fell, news reached Chelmsford that Middlesex's match had been abandoned, and Yorkshire skipper Ray Illingworth duly congratulated the captain of the new champion county, Keith Fletcher. It was another half an hour before Essex's game finally submitted to the rain. By then, the players were already celebrating only the second championship title in the history of the club.
It was a lost cause, this was it, but somehow Mike Gatting had to convince himself there was still a chance for Middlesex. Norman Cowans wasn't giving up, not yet anyhow. One more of those would bring a fourth bonus point, Middlesex's minimum requirement. Richard Hadley, the batsman. So, arithmetically, it was still possible, though you had to be a real purist to enjoy this increasingly pointless ritual in the drizzle. Nottinghamshire's captain, Clive Rice, had done Middlesex a favour by not declaring early. Out of fairness to Essex, he then scored a century. The rain isn't everyone's enemy, but it left Middlesex needing to score 200 and bowl knots out for 150 in less than 3 hours. John Embry was game. The weather, alas, was not, and this glorious summer, along with Middlesex's title hopes, was well and truly over.
Now the details of those two games and the rest of today's county championship matches. Yorkshire batted all day to reach 220, which was good enough for Essex, while Nottinghamshire's declaration at 253 for 6 finally dashed Middlesex's hopes. Hampshire's game against Glamorgan was abandoned without ever looking like reaching a result. Champions? Middlesex are second and they receive £7,000. Third-placed Hampshire win £3,500 and Leicestershire gets £1,750. Yorkshire, by the way, finished bottom. But Yorkshire cricket apart, it's been a memorable year for the game, at least from the spectators' point of view. The West Indies lost the one-day World Cup to India in a match no one thought the Indians could win. Ian Botham steered Somerset to the Benson and Hedges final by scoring 96 not out. Essex lost the NatWest Trophy to Middlesex in the final over and then made up for it by taking the Schweppes Championship from them in the last month of the season. It hasn't even rained that much. After today's game against Yorkshire, Jeremy Thompson spoke to Essex captain Keith Fletcher.
Does it taste any sweeter, this championship title, coming not long after the disappointment of losing the England captaincy?
Yes, obviously I was disappointed then, but this is cricket, I'm afraid. I've thoroughly enjoyed over the years captaining Essex, but obviously if I'm going to captain Essex, then I want success. And the beauty of captaining Essex is they've got a lot of good players, and a lot of good players also want success, so it's that easy.
It's been a very exciting season, both in county and international level this year. What players have really excited you through the season you've watched and played against?
Obviously, there's quite a few overseas players, so I wouldn't mind Malcolm Marshall occasionally. I think he's a tremendous bowler. To be honest, I think we've got 2 or 3 of the best young players. I think Derek Pringle. I'm very, very disappointed he's not going on this MCC tour, because the last winter he went away did him a tremendous amount of good. He's good enough, he should have gone, in my opinion. Neil Foster is a great bowler for the future. I think he's going to be a very, very fine bowler. As far as Essex is concerned, we've got a lot of good youngsters, young Gladwin coming in. I was very, very impressed with this young lad from Yorkshire called Moxon, the opening batter. I think he could be England material.
Do you look ahead, I mean, you're coming near the end of your career, do you think that cricket is still picking up, that it has an exciting future?
Oh, I do. Especially over the last few years, I think it's picked up. The Sunday League, the John Player League was the start of everything. I think cricket was struggling until then. One-day cricket means a lot financially to all the counties. I think the Championship obviously is the place where you produce your test players. It's the hardest one to win, along with the Sunday League. The Sunday League is difficult, but I think cricket's got a great future.
Keith Fletcher.
Ended in a draw, giving them a 16-point lead over Middlesex in the final table. That left Yorkshire with the wooden spoon.
Essex wanted to make sure of the title with a victory, but they had to bowl Yorkshire out. It seemed at first that the catches were not to be held. Then Moxon scored a convincing half-century. But he and Neil Hartley both fell to Stuart Turner in 1 over. South African rebel John Lever took 3 wickets in the innings for 10 in the match. That one was Phil Carrick, and Essex looked set for their victory. But as the last Yorkshire wicket fell, Illingworth clean bowled, leaving Essex a target of 133. Down came the rain, and the announcement that the Middlesex match had just been abandoned. The title had come to Essex anyway.
Obviously we kept going well right the way through the season. Obviously the Championship is a thing which we have to keep going right the way through. We've got a lot of good players, We've been able to keep our side together. We haven't had that many test calls. We just had Neil Foster on a test call. Unfortunately he got injured as well towards the end. But that's the answer. We've got a lot of good players.
Low strength here today. They're without